Hi there. Welcome to another episode of How Did They Build That? We are looking at Glide apps. My name is Clyde D'Souza. I'm a software developer by profession, and in my spare time, I look at a bunch of different things that may or may not be useful to me, and Glide apps was one of the things that I've been looking at now for a long time. So if you don't know what Glide apps is or Glide is, it's basically an online tool to convert a spreadsheet into a mobile app in just a few minutes. And most importantly, all of this is without writing a single line of code, right? So you don't have to write all of the lines of code to build apps for different platforms. You can just use Glide to build an app from a spreadsheet. Now, today we will be looking at another template and we will see how that was built, right? How did they build that? So I have gone ahead and opened up the templates library in another tab. And the other day I was looking at a very neat template, um, and I thought that is actually a great a great template to look at for a second episode. So if I search for tip calculator and open that up, so this one is built by Glide themselves. Glide has built a bunch of different templates for other people to use. So you can copy the template, have a look at how it was built, and if you want to build a custom functionality around that, you can feel free to add stuff to it. So it's a nice little template provided by Glide that can act as a starter template for you, starter app for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the copy template button, which will open up the tip calculator. So first let's look at what the app does. Obviously it is it's not very surprising of what it does since the name is tip calculator. So essentially you can enter the total amount of a bill. For example, if you have gone to a restaurant, or you're paying any other amount, you can choose from either one of the predefined tip percentages. So if you say 8%, for example, then the total here will automatically be calculated. So it has calculated a tip of $16 and has a total value of $216. Now this changes depending on what you select, or you can click on other and put your own value into this app. So this is a nice little app, if you just want it on your phone to quickly calculate some tip percentages if you are in the situation multiple times and you just want to have something handy. So now and then that's pretty much it really. There's no other menu, there's no other tabs going on, so it's just one screen, simple functionality. So now let's copy this template into my account. You can do the same if you want to follow along with this video. You can do the same. I will leave whatever I'm looking at today, or whatever concepts that I'm discussing today, while we have a look at how this app was built. Whatever concepts I'm discussing today, I will put a link of those concepts in the description of the video. So starting with the only screen that we have, so what I like to do is I also like to click on edit sheet, which opens up this underlying spreadsheet in another tab. So we can have a look at that and compare it to what is in Glide. So just a quick look on the screen. We have this screen which is using a details style version, whatever that's called really. Just using a different details style of UI really. And because we have added detail style, or this format, we can add a bunch of different components. Now it starts off with a rich text editor, which really is just a default value for the heading. All the rich text editors support Markdown, and so if you don't know what Markdown is, I have actually made a class on Markdown, which I can link it in the video below. But essentially, Markdown is a text-based way to sort of format your text, right? So it's you get the output of a rich text editor, but by just using a few symbols, um, and using a few just following a particular format for your text. So anyway, the details are in the class, in the online class, which you can sign up using the link, which I'll leave it in the description of the video. Anyway, coming back to how the app was actually built. So you have a rich text editor here. We have a number entry here, which pulls up the value from the column subtotal, and we have a little drop down which pulls up a value from a different sheet. So I suppose this is the home tab that's actually showing here. So if we look at the Google sheet, we can see that there are two tabs, home and options. And the home tab has subtotal, tip, and custom tip has fields, and the options has the list of tips that you can select. So you can have either the predefined tips or others. And so this is the subtotal, custom tip, and what else? Oh, and your selection itself comes from the home home sheet, and the options one really is to just populate this list of options here. Now they have used, in terms of the design, in terms of the output, they have used a segmented version. You can change this to list if you want to. It should kind of behave the same way, but I guess a segmented one looks a little bit more sleek. Now the next one is another number entry for a custom tip. Now this has disappeared, and the reason is because we have a visibility condition set for this particular field. The visibility states if the tip value is others, only then it is visible, right? So that's why we have these three columns here. Subtotal is pretty straightforward. Tip is really to store the information, to store the value of the drop down, and custom tip is really to store if the tip is other, then you'd probably want to actually type a custom value for your tip. So that's really what this is. Going back to choice, just like to quickly add that although the source, the data for this drop down is coming from options, the data that is the output. So the source is the input to this drop down, or to this segmented little choice component here, but this data, this section here, this is really the output. So when you change the selection, where does this selection get set, where does it get stored? And it really gets stored in the tip column. So that's this one here. And so if we select on other, for example, the custom tip now becomes visible because we had a visibility condition set on it. Finally, we end with another rich text, and this time instead of actually adding a text itself, adding a custom text itself in the layout, in the screen, we are retrieving the value from a column. Now if you see here, you will notice that there are more number of columns than there are number of columns in the actual spreadsheet, right? So just bear with me, we will get to that, but for now just sort of make a mental note that comes from another unknown column, sort of another mysterious column called total display, which is supposedly in a markdown format as well. And then finally, we have a button with the value copy total. And the features of this button is that it allows you to copy the value to a clipboard. So for a button, you can add different types of actions when you click on the button, and one of the action is copy to clipboard, which just allows you to quickly copy some value. And in this case, what it's copying is linked to the total again, and it's linked to the total again, and that's whatever the data is, whatever the data is contained in that total column, that's what will get copied when you click on this button. Now that we know that how this screen works, and to be fair, it's a very straightforward single screen. There's nothing else going on, and so this is really a great example for. I thought it's a great example for episode number 2. Now the thing that we need to talk about is those mysterious columns, right? And obviously there's some sort of complexity in terms of how the tip is being calculated, because it has been doing this automatically, and as you know that you don't actually write any code. So then how is this actually working, right? How does the tip get calculated automatically? And so to find out about that, and to find out about those mysterious columns, we click on the data. We click on the data tab to open up the columns of a spreadsheet. But of course, this view, if you remember from the last video, this view is really sort of Glide's version or on top of the actual spreadsheet, right? So even though the spreadsheet's values, the columns will get reflected here correctly, but on top of that you have the option to add more number of columns, which may not then go back to the spreadsheet. So this is sort of custom to Glide. All of the information gets stored in Glide. Now what is very cool here is the amount of custom columns that have been added and what has actually been used. And so this is a very interesting example to have a look at these bunch of concepts and really see it in practice. And of course, while we go through all of these concepts, I will explain them, but I will also put a link to these individual concepts in the description of this video. So to start off with, this is no doubt quite understood in terms of the subtotal, tip, and custom tip. So this is just pulling it straight away from the spreadsheet, right? So there's no customization here. It is straight out of the box. It has automatically detected here that it is a number, and this is just a text. I suppose this is just a text, so it is automatically detected these first 3 columns. Now let's start with the 4th column, which is called custom tip percentage. Now if I drop this down, click on edit, I see that the column type is set to math. So to add a custom column, I can click on this add column plus icon in the top right of the screen, and then I can choose the column type, and give it a good label. In this case, it is using a math column type, which means I can do some sort of calculations. Now this is a feature that I completely absolutely love. Is you can type in whatever formula you want, right? So in this case, custom tip is really your custom tip divided by the value 100, and that's what is 0.29. But now the thing that I absolutely love about this is the ability to add replacements, right? That is so well designed over here. And in this case, now you would wonder, how does it know So I've just typed in text custom tip, but how does it know to pick the value of this column up? The reason it's doing that is because we've added replacements. And now the beauty of this is that you can actually add whatever value you want, and that you can map that value, you can map it to any column, right? So in this case, we have custom tip mentioned here, and for the replacement, we are using the custom tip column. Now that's how it knows that this value stands for or will be fetched for. So this acts like a placeholder and it will be replaced by the value of this column. Precision is really the amount of precision values that you needed to set, depending on what the final value of the calculation is. And that is pretty much the math column. The other next column here, the fifth one, is called resolved tip, or it's labeled resolved tip. So if I edit this, I can see that the column type is if then else. Now immediately when I say if then else, I already know that it is some sort of conditions that's been going on. Now if then else allows us to add or allows us to change the value of the column based on certain conditions. Now in this case, what the condition is saying is if the value of the tip column, which is the second column here, is other, right? So if we select other as the tip, if you want to set a custom tip, then the resolved tip gets the value from custom tip percentage, which is this column here, fourth column. Else the value is the value you get the value from the tip column itself, right? So if you select 20%, for example, it will go into the else condition and get 20% as the resolved tip. But if you select other from the drop down, it will go into the if condition, and then the value that will be here will be the value from this column here. So that's a quick if then else custom column or glide column really. Next up we have total display. If I click on edit, I can see that this column type is called template. Now this is again another column type that amazes me. In this case, we can add whatever content we want as a template, right? So as you can see, this is a mix of markdown. So you have like these headers, but then there's just regular text. We have a dollar symbol, but then we have a capital total. But if you see the output, the dollar symbol is followed by the value 180. So somewhere Glide knows to replace the value of total with the actual value and the value of tip with the actual value. Now how does it do that? It follows the same principle of replacements, where you can set the whatever you type in here, whatever you want to be replaced, you can set it here, and that you can map it to whatever column you wanted to map it to. So similarly, they have done it for total and they have done it for tip. Now the beauty about this is that you can actually enter whatever you want. So if I wanted the lowercase tip to also map to this value here, I can do that. And if I see the value of this column, it says $180, which was what it was, and you have $30 and then 20%. So because I just added a mapping to bring in the value from here, and that's exactly what this is doing. So let's remove this. Obviously the reason one was 30%, one was 30 and one was 20 is because it is mapped to different columns here. So one is mapped to calculated tip, and the one that I just added for the demo is mapped to the original tip of 20%. So I'll remove this and see the final value is switched back to div. So the essence of these templates is basically you can replace whatever text you want. You can make whatever text you want as a placeholder, right? So there's no it's it doesn't have to be like prefixed or suffixed with any characters or symbols. If you think total in lowercase has to be a placeholder for something else, that's what it is. So it's very intuitive, very easy to use. Now the final two columns here are, if you are following the icons of this column, you would have guessed that this is of column type math. So if I edit this, I see that there's another formula here, which is a formula to calculate a tip, and it has these values have been replaced with the values from these columns. So very simple. If I would have written this in uppercase format, so if in uppercase subtotal, then I would have had to edit this to be uppercase as well. Precision we have already had a look at, and in this case there's no units to be displayed after the value. And finally with total is another math column, but just with a different formula. Rest of the replacements still stay the same. Of course, it's been mapped to different columns. And just like that, with all of these mappings, you have markdown. You have this final total value using markdown, and these placeholders to get the actual tip value and actual total value. And just like that, you have a simple one-pager tip calculator screen. Now, since there is no menu, you would think that the tabs does not exist, or there's nothing configured here. But if I click on this, you would notice that there is one tab which is called home in this case, and that's what's reflected on the top of the screen. And this is the source for this screen is the home spreadsheet sheet. Now, just because there is no secondary tab, there's no second tab, just because of that, nothing appears in the bottom of the screen. So there's no icons, nothing of that sort. I could add another one and just to display the tips, but of course that's just over engineering the solution. So that was just a very quick demo of how the tip calculator works. Screech on the road. That was a very quick demo of how the tip calculator works, and this is episode 2 of how did they build that. If you have any questions around this video of how this tip calculator was built, or any questions around the type of columns that were used or anything of that sorts, please feel free to comment below and I will get to answering as many questions as I can. Like with any other videos, feel free to subscribe to this channel so that you are up to date whenever I post new videos, new content. And don't forget to give this video a like, a thumbs up if you did indeed like the content. And of course, if you did like it and you want to share it with your friends and family, please do so. Please do so. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.